Hello and good morning. I wanted to hop on, make another video to share, of course, my experience as a mixed race woman in New Mexico. What I am trying to do is just pretty much spread awareness to women, to women who are in the professional work field, and for the upcoming individuals who are going to be working in a professional work field, what kind of things they can expect, whether good or bad, because we've got to take the good with the bad. So since my last video, I am very excited that it went across and people watched it, and it makes me very excited. I had some feedback, some people really enjoyed the video, and that makes me really happy because this is really hard. Getting up here and sharing experiences, just getting up on YouTube and expressing anything can be really challenging. I do not claim to know every experience that a person can have while living in any city. So again, this is only from my perspective. These are the things that I have had to encounter. And they might not be exact as somebody else's. They might not be as big as somebody else's. But what I'm trying to offer is a safe space for women to come together and talk and share these experiences so that we can be unified in our way to support each other through these hard times. So I want to go ahead and share another experience with you guys. I'm hoping that it doesn't take 35 minutes like the last one did, but I really do appreciate whoever watched the whole thing through. It really is valuable to me that the words that I am sharing, some people can empathize with, or some people can relate to. I still would like women to come together and we all share those experiences together, because we're not alone. Many of us, even if you're a minority or not, many of us are experiencing these hard things when we're in the workplace. Over the years, I myself have watched and read experiences from white women who have shared how difficult it is to work with white women who are in a professional superiority kind of position, and it can be very difficult. Sometimes these experiences bring on or make the effort to bring on some self-doubt and insecurities, and they kind of fuck with our brain a little bit, and I don't want us to let that happen. I feel as though in America, not in New Mexico specifically, but in America, it's like a theme, and I think it's generational. There's a certain generation that were taught specific things, and that kind of played out through all of their lives. And here we are, a new generation, and we're noticing these things because we kind of saw them in our upbringing, and we've acknowledged them and put a stop to them there. And I also feel like it's really important for us to notice, acknowledge, call out, and establish boundaries in the workplace as well when we see these kind of behaviors play out. What I want to do is share an experience that I recently had. Following the first video that I had, I had discussed some types of, microaggressions that you might experience when working with a supervisor in the workplace, and how there are many times when our supervisors don't really consider our cultural backgrounds, and so the expectation is that, well, you're in this position. I'm assuming the expectation is that, well, you're in this position, so you should know what to do, and we don't need to cater to you. However, I am also a person that believes that compassion needs to be delivered to clients. I am a mental health professional, so I deliver compassion and understanding to my clients when I'm working in a professional setting. And I do feel like it is the supervisor who is supposed to empathize and show compassion to the workers. So, one thing I want to share. So the last video, I was talking about how I was really close to getting my LCSW and getting all of the credits that I needed to pursue and become bigger in this field, which I'm still doing. I reached out to an old supervisor who I had established a lot of hours with, and when I sent the email, it was for the purpose of obtaining the information so I could send it off to the board to complete or start the process of getting my LCSW. Now, these are the types of situations that we may have to deal with in our lives. And in these types of situations, I want to make it perfectly clear what I'm trying to say. One thing that we need to take with us as individuals, as professionals, is that we can't change someone else. And I know that that is highly spoken of in the mental health field and probably in the medical field as well. But we can't change somebody else and the decisions that they make and how they choose to treat people. We as individuals have nothing to do with somebody. We have nothing to do with how somebody else treats us. We have no control over that. But we do have control over how we respond to those situations. And that applies in our personal lives and in our professional lives. I sent off an email, and in response, I got an email back. And I'm going to go ahead and paint the story for you, just so you have a little bit of background. I've been working at the place that I've been working at for almost 2 years, and I had a supervisor last year. During the shift from last year to this year, I had requested a new supervisor only for the reason of obtaining more insight in a different area of the field. And I had communicated this to the director of the location that I work at, and I assumed that they had communicated that to this supervisor. The supervisor over the summer reached out to me and asked if I had made the request, and I told her, yes, I did. I did it for this specific reason. In my head, in my mind, and what was going on with me was, I need more training on this area because I haven't received that from you because you don't work in that area. So I'm trying to expand and grow myself, so I'm going to work with somebody who has knowledge in this area as well. It has nothing to do or nothing negative about the supervisor. It was all about me, really, and what I can do to make myself a better social worker. Okay. So these are the types of behaviors that you're going to that you could potentially deal with when you're working with professionals who may or may not believe that you are smarter than them or not. This supervisor, when I reached out to her over the course of from a couple of weeks ago and before, I had reached out to her just in like, hey, how are you doing? Just checking up. How have things been going? She never responded to me. And so I just was like, yeah, well, it is what it is. Move on with my life, until I had to reach out to her and request that she send the required documentation to the board or to myself to verify the hours that I worked under her. And that's when I received an email from her. I received an email from her in which she told me that because I requested, this is her wording, right? So she stated that because you made the request, that lets me know that you're not ready to do this job. Now, during the year that I worked with her, she never had any complaints about me and my learning. She never told me anything about, hey, I think that you really need to learn more of this. During our 1 year together, over 60-some supervision hours that we worked together, she had observed my documentation and she had told me that it was fantastic. It was good documentation. Everything that I was doing was great. What I'm saying is that she never told me that, hey, you need to make sure that this is in there. You need to make sure that this is in there. She said, what you have here is perfect. And so based on that, I'm like, great, I'm doing a good job. It wasn't until I had requested to have my hours sent to me, and when I requested her to fill out the documentation, is when she told me then that I am not ready to go. And it wasn't nice. Like I think I'm putting it in a nice way. It wasn't nice. It was belittling. It was disrespectful. And she also stated inside of her email that she did not want to send this to the director, this particular email. I kept the director out of this but you can send it to her if you want to. Well, being that I don't have any ill will towards this woman, and being that I don't understand why she brought it up after the fact, that I wasn't skilled on these particular areas in my brain, I said, well, you're the supervisor. Why did you purposefully withhold that information from me? Now, I didn't tell her this, but I did send the email to the director of the place that I work for. And I let her know that this is the type of person that you've had me work with under her supervision. This is completely disrespectful. It is unacceptable. And I, just like any other person who is in this field, deserves the same level of respect as anybody else. There should be no reason why we're having this kind of communication. I was later informed that she, the supervisor, would not be working at the location anymore. She had already put in her resignation. And so she was no longer going to be working there. And I was reassured that they would not even consider hiring her again. So I left it at that. But it ruminated. And it stayed in my head for weeks. For weeks. And so the purpose of me saying that is to kind of piggyback off of the last video. You are going to potentially encounter some difficult personalities when you're working with people as clients and when you're working with people as your supervisors. You're going to encounter these types of people. The one thing that I want you to consider, and this is, like I said, this is not mental health advice. This is not anything. This is basically saying what I did. So let me start all again. What I did in that situation is, because I was ruminating about it, and at the moment when she sent the email, my blood was bubbling already, because I couldn't understand why she felt it necessary to send that to me, and how it really related to me requesting another supervisor so I can expand my own knowledge, and how that then in turn means that I am not competent enough in these certain areas. So I assess stuff, so I break things down. I break them down to the tiniest little things. And even if that's not what it was, that's what I broke it down to in my head. And so I was livid, and I didn't respond back to her. And I think that's the point that I'm trying to make, is that we have no control over what another person is going to say to us, what they're going to do to us, how they're going to act around us, how they're going to speak towards us. We have no control over them and their actions. We have no control over it. We can tell them that we don't like it. We can let them know that we find it disrespectful. And it still is not necessarily going to change how they respond to us. But it's still not going to change how they respond to us. But what we can do is choose how we respond to them. In the past, if I would have received an email like that from a supervisor, I would have had no trouble holding back. No trouble at all saying exactly what I felt. And it wouldn't have come off nice, and it would have been very negative. And I probably would have lost my job because of it, because I have a mouth that I'm sure a lot of people have. You know, it's not just me that has a mouth that's going to say, no, I'm going to defend myself because you just disrespected me, and nobody's going to disrespect me, and you're going to learn. Well, in the past, sorry, there was like a hair on my nose. It kept irritating me. Okay. All right. In the past, when I have responded in such a way, I definitely did lose my job. And that has created a lot of work anxiety for me, because it also helped confirm that I can't really be myself in work environments. And it also confirmed that sometimes myself might be a little bit too much for some people. So I didn't respond. And it's been about 3 weeks, I think. So it was like from after the last video. So it's been about 3 weeks now. And as many things went through my head on what to say to her and express to her exactly what I'm feeling, I didn't say a thing. Hold on. Okay, it is on. I didn't say a thing to her. And I'm going to tell you what that did. number one, what it did is it allowed me an opportunity to process all of the thoughts that I was having, all of the things that were going on in my head. It allowed me to understand and see that her problem was not me. I was probably the reminder to her that there are people that are better, smarter, and more skilled, even if they're younger. There's a misconception, I believe, in supervisors when they come into these positions and they believe like they are the all-knowing. They've not experienced the same things that I've experienced. They haven't worked with the same demographic of people that I've worked with to be able to see what I see. And so I feel as though with many hours and days of this ruminating in my head, of this continuing to cause me stress, I finally came to the understanding that this woman's response to me had nothing to do with me. Nothing at all to do with me. What I believe it had to do with was the things that she was trying to project onto me. In her effort to say that I wasn't skilled enough in this area, and this area, because I didn't want to work with her, because I wanted somebody else who had a different level of experience, that let me know that she herself has self-doubt, because that's what she tried to put in me. I think she tried to project self-doubt because I did start to doubt myself. I did start to doubt all of the work that I had done over these years, all of the experiences that I have had, all of the jobs that I have worked at. I started to doubt it. I started to be insecure. I started to say, well, maybe I'm not good enough. Maybe she's right. Maybe she sees something that I don't see in myself. Maybe she's right. And then I called up and talked to some very supportive people. And that's another note I want to make. Having very supportive people in your corner. Having supportive people does not mean those people that are just coming over to your house to party and hang out and, blow all your money with you and you treat them to everything. That's not support. Support is, I'm going through some hard stuff and I have a hard time doing it alone. Which I do. I do have a hard time going through things alone. So I called the biggest supporter that I have is my mom. So I contacted her first. And I let all of the emotion out to her because she's my mom. So I expressed to her my self-doubt. I expressed to her the insecurity that this woman made me feel. And then I listened to her. I listened to my mom and she said, I hate seeing you this way because you've worked so hard. And I have worked hard. My career, like I said before, didn't start last week, right? It didn't just start. So I have years of experience working in the mental health field that started when I was 19 years old, working in residential treatment where I am exposed to different mental health conditions from children. I moved on. Sorry, those are my doggies. After that, or actually, before that, I had sent a screenshot of this email to other people who were very supportive and offered me a lot of encouraging words. And they also validated, how I was feeling at that time. They definitely let me know that the way that this person was talking to me, they just reassured me, like, she definitely sounds like she's bitter. She sounds like she's projecting. And I don't think that you need to hold on to this as much as you are holding on to this. So that's essentially like the message that I got. They were very kind. They were very supportive. And that's the point. Having supportive people behind you. Having people that are going to, when I'm not feeling like I can get up and do anything, that I have supportive people beside me that says, yes, you can. Yes, you can, because I've seen you do it before. Through situations that were worse than this. So get off of your butt and do it. Right. And that's what happened. So I think that the point that I'm trying to make is that we are going to encounter adversities in our life, our personal life, in our work life, in society when we go out, there was times where I've traveled, I've driven from one state to another and, stopped at some really questionable places where adversity was being questioned right there. And I had to mold myself into who I needed to be, which is the part that sucks, I think, is because it's not always being able to be my authentic self depending on who's around. That's the hard part. I have come to an understanding, I have come to an acceptance that not every person that I am going to be around is going to understand me. They're not going to understand what I've been through. They're not going to understand the experiences. They're not going to understand the walk that I have had. They're not going to understand it. And once you don't let them take that little bit of energy, and it's a lot of bit of energy, it's really not a little bit, it's a lot of bit of energy whenever you receive an email or you receive a text message or you receive a phone call and you're presented with something negative, especially when you're a single mother like myself and you're being told some negative stuff like that. Because I am a single mother and because I've been told negative stuff in the past, I have workplace anxiety because I always have a fear that I'm going to lose my job. So I really do have to walk on eggshells in certain places that I am at, because if I say the wrong thing, or if I'm not smiling, or if I don't look peppy all the time, which I'm already peppy just anyways, but if I don't look peppy all the time, then there's apparently supposed to be some type of problem. And when they start questioning, they start getting nervous because they don't know me. And this is just an assumption, and I'm probably going to end up cutting this part out. But they start changing as well. We have to be prepared for those changes, those adversities. So the point is, when you are presented with a tough situation, especially when it comes to your work, you can lose your shit. You can. But let it be a lesson for the next time. There were many times where I've lost my shit at work and had to learn the next time. We're not doing that again. That costed you something. The consequence. We have to weigh out the pros and cons of our actions. So it really does mean sitting down and having a conversation with yourself about what you did in the whole spectrum of things. What was my role? And in many situations, we're going to feel like we were unjustly treated. Number one, have that supportive system that you can rely on. Somebody that you can go to that doesn't necessarily need something back in return. They're just willing. They have a willingness to want to help you. And make sure that you're right in your mind. Make sure that you know who you are. Like, what are your goals? What are your dreams? What are your values? What are your boundaries? And don't believe the lies that everybody has told you to keep you down, because we are capable. We do have the skills. We do have the ability. What we need is a stronger mind. People in general are the same people that work as your supervisors. These are the same people that go to Walmart. These are the same people that go shop at Target, the same people at Costco. These are the same people at the DMV. The same people that work behind the counters are the same people that are in your community. They're still fucked up. The mentality of fucked up-ism has not left them. All they do is they just transport it into the work facility, because some of them don't know how to compartmentalize. And sometimes I believe that compartmentalization can be healthy. I don't want any of my outside things that I do to bleed into what I do in my home. I don't want my work to bleed into my home. I don't want my home to bleed into my work. I want to keep them separated. Gotta keep it separated. So I want to keep them separated. And I believe that there are some people who are working in these professional roles that don't know how to do that. And so their hate that they have, it comes into the workplace and it shows in the workplace. And so it's up to you. It is up to you to not be the person that reacts, because we're so used to doing that. So your brain has to be strong enough to know your values and know your boundaries. Boundaries in the workplace is incredibly important. And sometimes it can be hard to establish those boundaries if you've never done it before. So I'm going to give one more story before I go ahead and wrap this up to kind of share about how I learned how to appropriately use boundaries when it comes to work. Okay. I was working at a big jail here in New Mexico. When I was working in this facility, I was exposed to so many very, very invaluable lessons, like lessons that still have left a mark on me today. And I really do have to say, and as many people probably don't like working in jails, or maybe it brings them on too much stress, or maybe it brings too much mental instability, which it did for me too. I loved working there. I loved the exposure that I had received. While I was working there, they had many rules because it is a jail, right? So there are certain rules that you have to abide by, which means like you really can't have your cell phones in the building. That's just a no-go. And even our purses, they had to be like see-through, so the COs can see what's in our bags and stuff. And that was just safety precautions, right? It was establishing boundaries within a location that already had pretty much solid parameters. What I did with that is I took that and I applied it to my own life. When I first walked into this facility, I was like, oh shoot, this is wild. I can't have my phone. I have to have a see-through bag. I went out and bought my dad got me a see-through bag for my birthday one year, or that particular year. And I made it work. I adjusted to the boundary that they had set. I adjusted to it. Okay. So I had a supervisor there. It's always a supervisor. She wasn't really even a supervisor. She was like the team lead. So I had a team lead. I had a team lead. Well, she was all of our team lead. And she had the habit of sending us emails whenever we were off of work. And at that particular time, I would work 4/10s. So I would have 3 days off, which I encourage everybody in the world to at least go, if you can, at least for 1 year, 4 days a week and 3 days off. I don't understand why America doesn't do it anyways. It provided me a lot of time to do some self-reflection, to engage in self-care, to make sure that my house was clean before the week started again, and to get things done that I needed to get done. It was the most incredible experience that I've had. I'm only recently going back to 5 days a week because I feel like I'm capable of doing it now, but 4 days a week, incredible. So with that being said, she liked to email us on our days off, and she would like assign us roles and do this and do this. It was very control freakish. One of those days she emailed me on my day off, and she did this to another colleague of mine who hopefully one day we'll be able to do a video together, because I think that we can share a lot about our experiences and, just whatever else when it comes to working in a detention center. So what she did was she contacted me on my day off, and I didn't respond. I did not respond. And then she called me, and I didn't respond. And then I went to work, and she told me, she was very angry with me. So she was yelling, like, you need to answer whenever I message you. You have to be available. And so what I did is I took it upon myself to go talk to the supervisor. And I not only let him know, it was either after or maybe before I had sent an email where I tagged them in it, and I let them know, no, I don't have to be available. I'm not a 24-hour employee. That's not my role here. You have hired me to work 4 days a week for 10 hours. And then I have 3 days off. When I'm working those 4 hours, when I'm working those 4 days of the week, you tell me I can't have a cell phone and I have to have a clear bag. So you guys are already kind of in my personal space. However, I accepted and respect the boundary. With that being said, on my 3 days off, do not expect me to respond. Just like when I come into here, my family doesn't have access to me at all. You don't have access to me on my 3 days off. It is very important for us, even if you're in a professional setting or even if you're not, you have got to remember, you don't owe these companies anything. You are there to provide a service. No matter if you're flipping burgers at McDonald's or you are an attorney. Okay, maybe attorneys have it a little bit different. I don't know. I don't know what their life is like. For me, whether you're in a professional setting, when I am at work, my family does not bother me. Or if they do bother me, I don't respond because I'm at work. And now this place has my time because they also pay me money for my services. Always remember, you are providing a service. And once you clock out, that service is done until the next day when I need to provide service again. This does not mean that you get to call me on my days off and harass me. It does not mean that you get to email me on my days off and expect a response. That's not what this means. What it means is I have established a boundary that makes sure that my mental health is taken care of, because working at these places can be completely overwhelming for some individuals. Completely overwhelming. And because it is overwhelming, being able to have your days off to where you can gather yourself back together from the week, whether you had a hard week or whether you had an easy week. You can reflect on it. If you want to go out, you can do that. But being able to have your time, because you only get 2 days of your own time. Full days. Only 2 full days of your own time. They are not supposed to get involved in that. Remember, you are providing a service to them. You do not owe them anything. Just as easily as they can let you go, you can let them go too. Just letting you know. That shit works both ways. Set boundaries. You are establishing boundaries for yourself, for your own sanity, for your own mental health, for your own sense of freedom, for your own safety. You are establishing boundaries so that businesses and people can't take advantage of you. Make sure that you provide yourself with some really real quality self-care. Make sure you take care of yourself and your mental state. Make sure that you have people around you who are supporting you and there for you and standing by your side. Not as a means just to fill in space. Like, oh, I've got all these people that I know. But a means to say that when I am not doing my best, these people are here to pick me up and remind me of who I am. Make sure that you have a backup plan. If you decide to leave a job, make sure that you have already prepared to go to another job. You don't want to leave one job and not be secure in another one before you leave. I've seen people that will simply just quit jobs and then panic and freak out and try to figure out, well, what am I supposed to do now? What am I supposed to do now? And essentially what you're supposed to do is find another job, because that's how we survive on this planet. But also be prepared for those type of situations. If you are reacting to the things that your supervisors are telling you, if you're reacting and not responding, be prepared to find another job, because it could potentially happen to you. I think that that's all I wanted to say today. I kind of think that that kind of sums it up in helping to better understand the kind of things that we may experience in the workplace. We are going to deal with adversities. We are going to deal with challenges. I hope you guys got some really good information from this video. I hope that it was able to resonate with some people, maybe relate to some of it, even if it was the internal feelings of how it feels or the external from the experience But again, I want you to know that you are not the only one out there that is experiencing these hard things in these businesses and working with other people. You are not the only one. There are many of us out there, and like I said, I'm just trying to share my story and hope that there are some women that are wanting to come together and share their stories with me, and then we come together on this and share our stories with the world. Until next time.